Hi guys, this is Tina with Rehatch Designs, and we are here with part 2 of making our journal from a book. Okay, and so if you had not watched part 1, I would go back and do that because you kind of missed a lot. Okay, but part 2 is taken up where we left off, and we had gotten to the point where we had taken our book and we had reinforced it and went ahead and put some tie back on it and put our material, and then we had gotten our pages. We picked out what our pages were and what kind of things we wanted in it, and then the homework was supposed to be cutting down all of our pages. So hopefully everyone got to that point, and so now we can move on to actually putting our signatures in our page in our book. Okay, so what we were supposed to have done is went ahead and cut all of our pages down, and we had our 2 signatures. So we cut all of our pages down to whatever, and those dimensions are going to be different for everyone depending upon the book you're using. So I'm not really going to go into that, but I did give you an idea how you wanted to kind of be able to keep your pages a little bit smaller than your book and have your 1/4 of an inch around. So you want to make your pages the length you want to make, the height you want to make it a 1/2 inch shorter if you want the 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here, because you're putting a 1/4 here and a 1/4 here equals a 1/2. And then on the width, you have to double the amount that you're measuring from here to here, and this was 5 inches, so you multiply that by 2. Our book was actually 5 1/4, so we just did them 5 inches. So you don't double the 1/4 inch on that because you're only going from here to here. So that's what you're gonna do on your book. Okay, so anyway, what we want to do next is we want to prepare our pages to go into our journal. And what I usually do at that point is I make sure I have all my pages kind of in the order that I want. Okay, we kind of did that a little bit last time, but I did change a few things out in the pages that I picked. I put in some purple pages instead of some of the plain ones. I decided to add a doily in each of my 2 signatures, one on this one and one on the other. I added this little card that's a little bit smaller, but I thought I'm going to do that in the middle of my signature. And I took out the envelopes that I used, or not the envelopes, but the bags that I used, and decided to put these in different ones instead of the ones that I had. I didn't think it went well. I also, at this point, would tell you if you're going to do stamping on your pages, might be when you want to do it, because it's way easier to do it obviously when they're apart. I added a few lines on my pages with I have like a little cardboard stamp that I put Distress ink, and I did that on a few of my pages beforehand. I'll probably do some other stamping later, but something like that you really can't do with your on your journal if you're if you don't have it flat on a flat surface. So I mean, you can add a little stamp here or there, it's not too bad, but if you're trying to do something like that, you really have to have a flat surface. A lot of people, if you're going to add pockets that you sew on or anything like that, obviously you need to do that while you have your pages not sewn in your journal. Okay, I'm not adding any to this. If you're gluing them on, you can do them later. Okay, and a lot of people do them still beforehand, but in this case, on this journal, we're not going to be doing that ahead of time, just for the fact that we want to be in a situation where we're going to do this later, and I just kind of want to show you guys that you can do it later. There are just a few things you can't do. You can't sew things on while it's together, obviously, and you can't do large stamping. Okay, you can do small stamping, just not large. Stenciling, you know, if you want to stencil all over the page, that kind of thing. So pretty much that's it. So anyway, what I do at that point is I go through my pages and I make sure that they're in the order that I want. Like maybe I don't want two greens next to each other. Maybe I don't want, you know, the same elements next to each other. So maybe, well, let's see, I think I would like that better here. So I'll move it. I look through this and go, okay, do I want that there? Do I want something else there? Maybe I want to move that here. And then I take that, and maybe I want that over here. Okay. And I just kind of, you know, make sure it's varied and make sure it's in the order that I want. Okay, so that's what I do. I do it to both of them. I'll do that in this one. Just kind of go. Just kind of make sure I have things the way I want them. And a lot of times, you know, you'll look at it a second time and go, you know, I don't like that there. I want to move it. And, you know, this is usually the time to catch that. Also, too, I did not go ahead and use those book pages because when I was looking to cut them, I realized I'd be cutting too much of the pictures in half, etc. So I just decided to use just a plain scrapbook paper, and it's rather thin because I don't like really bulky things in my journals. And that's something you'll find out too once you start doing journals, is that scrapbook paper that you want to use, that heavy scrapbook paper. It's okay to use as a signature cover like this, but you don't want to use it for pages in your scrapbook too often, because it really is very bulky, and when you add it in there, unless you're not going to add a lot of pages. So I tend to not use it a lot anymore. I use it for tags and things like that because you want those have more substance, but I don't usually use them on my pages. So anyway, I just added some plain scrapbook paper because I'm going to add the cutout pictures and fairies onto my pages, and I just wanted something kind of plain. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I've got both of my signatures. This is a signature. This is your signature cover. The other thing I was going to tell you, on my signature covers, I make those about 1/8 of an inch bigger in height and width than my journal pages. And the reason I do that is I just want them to be just a little bit bigger. You know, not a lot, not as big as my actual journal, but just a little bit bigger, because it's kind of it's kind of, you know, like its own little book. Okay, that's kind of how I look at it. Not everyone makes theirs bigger, and you don't have to, but you know, I do make them a little bit bigger. Now, one thing you're going to notice, and there's really no way to avoid this, is that you will have the middle of your middle pages will creep up, and they'll stick out a little bit longer than the rest. And once you sew it in, it'll be tighter, and there won't be as much of that. But the only way to avoid it, and you can't still completely avoid it, is the less pages that you have in a signature, the less of that little creeping up you're going to have. So for instance, I'm doing 15 pages in each signature, and I'm doing 2 signatures. Well, honestly, and you're going to figure this out after you've done a few books, it's actually easier to do 3 signatures with 10 pages each than it is 2 with 15. Okay, simply because of the fact that if I were to take, let me just take 5 pages out of this, and I don't count the doilies because they're really thin. Just say I take those middle 5 pages out, and if you notice, and I'm going to put these together, okay, there is a lot less of that creeping up in the middle than you were going to have if you had those other 5 pages, okay? And that's what happens when you start adding more than, the more pages you have, the more of that you're going to have, okay? And so, like, if you see that and you're doing a book and it has 20 pages in it, well, guess what? That's what's going to happen. Now, a lot of that goes away when you sew your signatures in. Like, see, there's a little bit more of it in the middle, and a lot of it will disappear then, but not all of it. It's not going to be the same as a commercial book that they, bind with a machine or whatever. It's just not going to be the same, but a lot of it will go away if you use less pages in a signature, and a lot of it goes away anyway if you, once you bind your book. But I will have to say that in the long run, I have learned it's actually better to have 3 signatures in a book with 10 pages than 2 signatures with 15. And anytime you start getting over 15, that's when it gets a little tougher to control that. Okay, so that's my spiel on that and the signature. So we've got these ready. What I do is I then go and I take these are my shorter pieces, and I kind of position them, make sure they're kind of in the middle. And I just go one after another. I make sure all my pages are in there straight. See, this doily is in there crooked, so I'm going to fold that in half. And I cut the doily a little bit on top and the bottom. And I think I'm folding it crooked now, so let's see here. Yep, there we go. So now I'm going to make sure that has a nice crease in it, and that's right in the middle, because the doilies will tend to float around when you put them in there, and that's how you would put the doily in, okay? And each page, you want to make sure it's in there good, and it's got a good crease on it, and it's not in the wrong spot. Like, for some reason, this one's not lined correctly. This is when you want to use your bone folder and make sure it's in there good. They all have good creases. And go through each page. See, that doily's moving again. They move around a lot, so you kind of have to make sure they're not floating around in there. And I take each page and make sure that each one, I hold it in my hand with my thumb, get them all where I want them. Like, see, now this is what I added instead of those. I had these bags. I just didn't think it looked good in there, so I went ahead and just decided to put these in. I put that in. I'm going to center that. And you don't have to center it. You can put it up or down or whatever. I tend to like to center mine. That's just how I do it. So anyway, I'm going to go all the way. There's another card. I'm trying to center that, as you can see. So I'm just adding them as I go, making sure that they are all centered. Okay. Your vellum pages and your tracing paper tend to slip around, so pay attention to those. So your shorter pieces, you just put them where you want them. Okay, and that's the only thing is when you're adding them in, you want to make sure that you've got it in the right position. And then this is my cover, which I took out, that it does not look very even. I'm going to make that even. I put washi on the back because it's a thinner paper and I wanted it to reinforce it. And that's something too, if you decide you want to put book pages or music page or whatever, then you can always make sure that it is reinforced if it's thinner paper. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to kind of fold it a little bit with my fingers still in the middle, and go like that, go like this without getting the other stuff to the bottom. And I'm going to push down on this as far as I can. See, here's my the middle of my signature right there, and I'm going to bend it, and I'm going to go down as far as I can, and I use paper clips, okay? And I take the paper clip and I go here, then I push down again. You're trying to get this as tight as you can. That's why you kind of want to bend it. You can't really get it that tight without bending it. And I'm going to take another paper clip and go the opposite right there, And I'm keep pushing down and keep adjusting it. Get it down as far as you can, because that's what makes it tight. See, guys? So that goes, takes that away. And you may have to readjust your clip as you go. Then I take this one and I go down as far as I can. And see, now this, I think I can move it down farther, so I'm going to go readjust it. I keep folding it to make sure I get it in there as tight as I can get it. And then go ahead and I'm going to put this down as low as I can get it after I get that on there. You want it as low as you can get it because that actually keeps it tight, okay? Now, a lot of people use the clips like this. There's nothing wrong with that. I just like how the big paper clips do it because it actually holds it down lower down here, okay? And that's usually what I use, okay? And I do that, get that in there. So that to me, and I fold it out and go, look, so that looks good. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect, but it is going to be pretty tight. And once you put your tie your signature in there, it'll go down there pretty good. Okay, so that's pretty tight. I push down with my fingers and get it as tight as I can get it, and that's what you're going to do. Okay, so that's how you prepare your signature. I'm going to do the other one. Okay, same thing. I'm going to make sure everything's positioned where I want it. You know, you're also making sure that, you know, you've got your pages where you want them to be. You know, just kind of, and this is a square doily that I have, but they move around because they're light and they float around. And if I've ever put anything crooked, it's usually a doily because they just kind of float around in the back. But I kind of wanted to show you guys how to do that because it is a thing. Okay, I'm going to do that. All right, that is crooked. So this is a good time to catch all that. Put each page in there. Make sure they're even. They don't look crooked because this is the time you want to do it before you sew it together, because after you sew it together, you can fix it. If you sew in a signature wrong, you can fix it. I mean, it's not, trust me, I've plenty of times taken apart what I've done. So here's another one of those, just a different color envelope that I put in there just instead of the bag. And I've got this. And that is pretty much all you're going to do. Making sure everything looks straight. Here's my card. Now see, this is smaller, so I'm centering this kind of in the middle, if you've noticed, right here. Okay, and I'm just eyeballing it. And I'm going to do that on this. Okay. And then all the way over here. And I had already folded these pages, so there's already a crease in it, but you know, I could have done it wrong. And then here we go here. This is my signature cover. And there we go. So I have everything in there. I have it where I want it. I kind of take it, go like that without having my, these pages, they might move them back over. I go back and I look. I got everything where I want it. It looks like this green one's kind of messed up. There we go. And then do my cover page. I make sure this is in the middle because it's a little tiny bit bigger. Not noticeably bigger, but a little bit. Okay. Make sure that's in there. So then I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the other one. Is I'm going to go down as tight as I can. I put my first paper clip in, push down again, and I kind of hold it at an angle, and that's what makes it tight, is holding it at an angle. Because when you lay it flat, it gets looser, okay? So you're trying to get it as tight as you can. Take your paper clip. I put the longer end toward the middle of my spine because that holds more papers down, and that's why I like using the paper clips, is because it does hold more paper down. So then I'm going to go down again and keep bending it, making sure it's staying tight, and I go to the other end. Like I said, this is not permanent, so if you feel like you need to go down and move it a little bit more, you can. I go and go as close as I can because that just actually helps keep it tighter. Okay, and you're trying to get that as tight as you can in the middle. Okay, that's it. So now you have your 2 signatures. They're ready to go. And pay attention if you have some orientation that you're not, one's not upside down and one's one way. I've done that before. That's something you want to avoid. If you have something in it like book pages and you don't want to put your first signature in or your last one, or if you have a certain way you want it to be. See, I can tell right now that doily's in there crooked. That always happens. They just float around. Let me look, where did that go? Yeah, see that? Look at that, guys. So I have to literally take it apart just to move that. That really irritates me. Ugh. Okay. They just move because they're so light. Okay. I think that just ripped. I have to take it apart. Let me see if I can get another one. Do I have another one close by? I don't know if I do. Oh, let's see. I don't know if I do. See if I have another doily. I don't know if I do. Yeah, I do. How about that? Okay, I'm going to put another one in there. Yeah, they just tend to float because they're light. So you just kind of have to watch where they go. So now I got to do this again. But that's part of the process, is you have to pay attention. You think you have everything all in straight, something will move around. And so usually what I do is right before I sew in my signature, I check it again one more time. Because in handling this, sometimes you'll be moving things around and you don't even realize you're doing that. Okay. Putting that in the middle. All right. All right, here we go. Okay, so we're going to do that, go like that without moving our, okay, there we go. It has to come up there, look again, and I usually just kind of look at it this way from that view and just kind of look and see that everything's where it is, needs to be. Move that over a tiny bit, as that can go down a little bit, right? There we go. Okay, so there we go. I think everything's where it needs to be. We're going to do it again. Going to hold it tight. Get this in there. The first one goes in, and then the rest you kind of maneuver this and make sure it's still tight. Okay. And I usually go from opposite end to opposite end. Hold it. And I hold it in this position just because I know that it's tighter if I do that. I mean, and honestly, guys, that's how I do my sewing in my signatures and punching my holes, because this is going to be the tightest position that it'll be in, is when it's upright like that. And that's why people use the book cradles and all the other stuff, is they're trying to keep it tilted up like that. Okay, so we have our 2 signatures done. Okay, so they're ready to go, and now we're going to get ready to punch our holes in, and then here's the process that we have to do. You need to measure the height and the width of your spine, and you don't want to go like from here to here. You want to go just the part right here where the crease is, right in here in the middle, okay? Because we are going to figure out where we're going to put our holes. So you want to measure from here to here and then here, okay? And everybody's book is going to be different, okay? So, you just have to figure out, and you want the actual height, not a rounded down a ½ inch or a ½ inch, but the actual height, and then the width from here to here. And then you need to cut out a piece of paper. I usually use file folder just because it's a little sturdier. You don't want it something heavy because you have to be able to fold this, okay? And so a piece of scrapbook paper works just fine. I use file folder. I tend to reuse mine If it's a book that like my little golden books, I have that template and I use it until it falls apart. Probably I keep this one just because of the fact that I have a lot of these Reader's Digest. If you have just some individual book that you're doing and you're not going to have another one that same size, because you have to, it would have to be the same size spine and the same size height. So if you don't have consistent books, and even the Reader's Digest, I do want to tell you, they're, depending upon when they made them, they're a little different. So you would want to check that before you reused it. But anyway, so then you have your piece of paper, and it goes like this. Okay, so that should fit right in there, and if it doesn't, then you've done something wrong and you need to go back and make sure, because basically that's where our journal's going to fit in there. So you don't want to make it too big, so it fits right in there. So that's it. So now what I do is I have to figure out where I'm going to put my holes, and this is my way of doing it, and I just fold this piece of paper, whatever size your paper is, this will work. Fold it exactly in half, okay? And this is a little harder because it's, you know, it's not super thick. That's why you can't have anything really super thick, because you have to be able to fold it. So I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm scoring it as I go, and I'm making sure it's perfectly in half, not just approximately. This kind of has to be exact. Okay, it's not, this isn't something that you can fudge on. Okay. So let me get that just right. And what I do is I hold the two sides together and then score it. Okay. Now that you've done that, that determines the middle, okay, of your your spine. See, so that'll be the middle right there, okay? Now you could take this and measure. I don't do that. I cut my piece of paper. Then after I fold it once, guess what I do? I fold it again. Okay, so I'm folding it basically in four. So I'm taking my half a piece that I have folded, and then I'm going to fold it one more time exactly. And I'm going to go all the way down. And I usually like to score it as I go, okay? It's easier. And I hold my two sides together. You get this like this. And of course you could do this with your scoreboard. You can measure it. But this is my way of doing it. And I actually found that it actually turns out better when I do it like this than when I measure. Because I always somehow do it crooked. And this works extremely well. Okay. So then I do that, I score it. Okay, so now I have something that looks like this, okay? So that's what it's going to look like. So you've got basically your two ends, and you have three lines that you've created, okay? If you want to, you can draw on those lines. I don't. I think it makes it kind of confusing. So I don't do that. I can see the lines. Hopefully y'all can see them too. So you've got 1, 2, 3, okay? The two outer lines are where your signatures are going to go in your spine. The middle one is what you're going to use to put the holes in for your signature. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So the next thing you need to do is you need to center this piece of paper. So yours is going to be whatever your size. Yours might be 8 inches. I don't know. Okay. I take a centering ruler, and I'm sorry mine is messed up. I really need to get another one, but you know what? I messed this one up, but it still works. So what I do is I take my 0 on my centering ruler, and you can do this without a centering ruler. You can just take a ruler and measure. Okay. But on my centering ruler, I just take it right below that line, and I look, and I'm trying to, here's a 4 here, here's a 4 here, and I want the end to be in the exact same spot on each side, and that's how you center it, and that is not centered. So let's see if I move it over. Nope, that's still not. So I've got to go in between, see this line right here, and that line. So I'm going to get them right in between, and that will center it. And the reason I'm trying to center is I'm trying to find my center of my piece, just so that I can go over here. Yeah, that's pretty centered. Just so that I can know that that's the middle of my signature. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but just kind of, and you can eyeball it, and I put that in the wrong spot. Let me turn it over and do it so I do it right. Start over. Okay, so I'm going right to where I can see the line. Okay, you can go on the line too if you want to, and I'm going to center it where I think the middle is. And I am way off now, aren't I? Okay, I think that's about right. So I'm just going to basically put a dot. Here's my line, and I'm putting a dot on that line. Okay? That's all I'm doing, is putting a dot on that line. And then I'm going to look over here, and I'm going to go 1 inch from the end, and that's just, doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to go basically from here to here plus 1/4. So that's going to be 1 inch there, and I'm going to the exact same spot over here, and I'm going to put a dot right there on that line. And I think I missed the line a little bit right there, so I'll just make it bigger. Okay, so what that did is that gave me my 3 spots that I'm going to put holes in my signature. But I need dots on this line and this line, and I'm just going to go straight across and put a round dot there and a round dot there. And I'm not measuring, I'm just looking, because it's not exactly that far away. And I'm just going to do that here, and I'm going to do that here. And then I'm going to write top or bottom. I don't put bottom, because obviously if that's the top, that's the bottom. And this is what I'm going to use to determine where my signatures go in my journal, and punching the holes in the signature. Okay, here's the thing. You could, at this point, make another template, okay, for your signatures, because let me show you something. We measured this to our journal, okay, the length of our journal. Remember, we made our pages smaller, so it's a 1/2 inch difference, okay? This is what I do. I take my piece that I have, and I will take it and just measure it to my, figure out where I want it, okay? And I'll go from top to bottom just like this, and I just kind of eyeball it. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just eyeball it. Line it up to the edge so I know it's straight, okay? And I usually do this before I put my signatures together, but anyway, and I just line it up. And then all I do is I just take my pen and I kind of make a little line. It goes across here. And I make a little line that goes across here. So I know where I have to line this up, okay? If you're only going to use this the one time, what you can do, put this on here like this. If you're only going to use it the one time, then what you can do is, and we'll do it that way just to show you, is that you can cut this off when you're done to match your pages, okay? And then that way you can measure it that way. Okay, and we'll do it that way just to show you. I don't do that just because if I'm going to reuse it, I don't want to have to make 2 of them. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, and we are going to go ahead and put our holes in. And what I use is this awl. You need something to poke your holes in. You could really just use, I'm going to be using wax thread. I like using the wax thread because it's easier to use. It's very strong. It will hold your journals in place. I remember I I had just bought one of these. I ran out. I was making all these little golden books, and I used, I don't remember what thread it was. It was a thicker thread, but I thought it would work good. And boy, there's nothing more frustrating when you're at the end after you tighten it in and you're trying to tighten it and it breaks. Okay, this stuff that has never happened. I got an entire bookbinding kit on Amazon for like less than $8, and it came with like, I don't know how many things of thread. You know, so if you're just starting, and it came with an awl and needles and all kinds of stuff. This happens to be something that I got in a thing that I'll show you in a minute, but it came in a kit. So this is the needle that I use, and it's a long needle. It has a big eye in it, and I like a really long one because I like it. It's easier for me to see what I'm doing, and it's pointy, but it's not super sharp. You could punch your holes with this if you wanted to. Okay, this is just a little bit sharper, and it's I like it because it's not really big, and some of your awls or pokey tools, I think it makes a hole too wide. Okay, and that's why some people use a needle, but if you'll notice, this is about the same size. So I use this. I like it. Okay, now a lot of people, when they poke their holes in their signatures, they use a cradle, which is basically something that holds them in a V. I don't have one. If I can get my hands on one, I'll buy one. A lot of people use a phone book, and that's because the phone book is at a V, and you can, you know, kind of cradle them in there as you're poking them. I just hold my signatures. That's how I do it. I don't know, it works okay for me. I had bought, and that's where I got those other things before. I had bought this thing. You'll see the marks on here because I've used it for different things. I bought this little kit, and it's a We Are Memory Keepers, and it's probably the only thing I've ever bought that I just honestly didn't think it was worth it. Because what you're supposed to do with this, okay, and you can use it even after you, where'd my little thing go? You could take this and put it in here, okay, and you could do it with this, okay, and you're supposed to, this is actually indented, okay, like a V, like your book would be, and you can put this in there and hold it in there, and I have used it, but to me it's just, I don't know. I guess I don't need it or something. I know that sounds kind of arrogant, but I don't need it. So you would take that in there and line it up. And then you put, where'd the top piece go? Oh, I'm sitting on it. You put this on top. And the thing that I don't like is you can only put 9 pages in there. I think they said the maximum. You can put more, but and that's what these things are for, is you're supposed to be measuring with those, not using this, okay? And put those in there, and then you would, wherever you've measured, you'd poke your holes in, okay, on here. And this actually would go up here, okay? And so, for instance, you know, wherever I measure on here, then I would poke my holes in there, and it holds it supposedly, you know, straight to where it goes straight into the places you want to poke it. Well, honestly, I think it's more trouble than it's worth. I don't think I've ever, I mean, I used it a few times and I went, I don't know. But, you know, to each his own. If you want to buy it, I think you can get them for $15-20. You can try that. I think it probably would work better if you had, you know, 5, maybe 8 pages, but most of my signatures are bigger than that. So anyway, so that's not how I'm going to do it. Okay, first thing I'm going to do though is I am going to take this, and this is my top, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and find the top of my book, okay, which I've done this upside down. That's okay if I did it like that. I just remember my top's really my bottom, but when you do your signatures, there's a reason why you have that top on there, okay? So I take this and I put it in the middle, and it should fit perfectly in there. And the way you can tell, it should be in there flat. I take some paper clips again, and I put my paper clips, and I'll have to do this closer to me. I take my paper clips and I just clip it right down the middle, okay? Right down the middle, okay? And then I'll take the other one, make sure it's in there good, and just clip it right down the middle. And that holds that in perfect. And I go like this to make sure it's in there right. Okay, it should fit perfectly in there, just like that. Okay, and the holes we're going to punch, because we're doing 2 signatures, are 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so this is our book. This is the top, 1, 2, and 3. The ones in the middle we're going to use later for our signatures. If you were doing a 3 signature journal, you would do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's all you would do. Okay, that's the only difference. Okay, and so you already have your line here if you were going to do that. And like I said, you'll find after you do a couple of these that it's actually easier to do 3 signatures with, 10 pages each than 2 signatures with 15. And it ends up looking better. But we're going to do the 2 just because, we're starting off. So I always start with the middle, and you just take and look how easy that was. It goes in pretty easy. Go like that. So I'm going to go, and I just do it right where my dot is. Watch your fingers. There's a little tool that they give you for your fingers, and I don't know let me see if I have it in here. I should use it because I have poked a hole in my fingers before. I have done that, and I can think out, well, who would need that? Well, I don't know if I have it. Let me see, I might have lost it. Where did it go? It shows you how often I use it. Did I put it in here? I have a bag that has all my binding stuff in it, and it may have floated to the bottom somewhere, and I don't see it. I don't know. Yeah, I probably did lose it. It's kind of like a thimble, really, but it's just a thing, and that is because you can poke a hole in your finger. So we're going to go through here and do that, and I just make sure your finger isn't behind there, because I have done that. I don't think I've done that one. So then we're going to go up here, not the middle, because the middle that's for if you're doing 3 signatures, and we're going to use that middle later. We're going to go to here. We did here. We're going to go up here. 1, 2, and okay. See, this is where you instinctively stick your hand behind there, and that's where you get a big hole in your finger. So don't do that. Okay. Anyway, so there, we're done. We've poked our holes. 1, 2. See, they're all even on the back. We can take this off now. We don't need it anymore. Okay. And there it is. We've done it. Okay. That's how easy that was. Now we're going to do our signatures. So we're going to fold these. I hold them like this. Okay. I literally hold them like this. And then I take this piece right here, and oh yeah, I was going to show you what you would do is you're going to cut this right on that line. If you're going to reuse it, you just line it up. I'm going to show you that first. There's a top line to the bottom, but if you're not, then this is where you would just cut it off. That's why I wrote top on there again. So this should be the same height now as your, see, it's the same height. So your top, if you have orientation on your pages, which I do actually, because some of these have a little writing on them. Let me see. So this is my top. So I'm going to take my top and put the top at the top, okay? You take your middle set of dots here, your middle line. See, this will fold in half. That goes right in the middle of your signature. So you see that? So if you fold it, it's even. What I do then is either take another paper clip and I put one on one side and I put one on the other side, or I take the paper clip I have there and I put another one. Okay? So that kind of holds it in place. Okay? And I make sure it's all nice and tight, holding it in place. Everything's in there. Squish it all down as far as I can. Now, this is the part where people would take it and put it in a phone book, and it's holding it that way. Or let me show you. Because what that does is it holds your book, and I don't have a phone book handy, but it cradles your book is what it does. It's cradling your book closed like that. Okay? And then you're pushing into something, and I'll do it that way just to kind of show you. So what it does is it's holding it and it's giving you something to punch into. Okay? So then you would take your all and just go 1, 2, okay, and then 3. Okay? I tend to just hold mine and punch it, but that might be easier for you. This doesn't really work because it's not thick enough and holding it, but it does give you something to punch into. Okay, so now we've done that. I take these 2 clips off, and we're just, see if you see my holes are in the middle. Okay, so now I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, and I make sure before I do it I squish it down as much as I can, and then I'm going to let me make sure, do I have anything with any writing or nope? Okay. Oh, the butterfly, we don't want that upside down. Okay, so here's my top, here's my bottom, and of course I'm making sure that's as tight as it can go. Put the top on the top, bottom there, make sure they're even. You see, since we cut that off, we know. So we're going to squish that in there. I put my paper clip. You don't have to do the paper clip thing. I don't anymore, but when you first start out, it does help. Okay, that is kind of stuck on there. Get another one. So we're going to do that, and I do them opposite ends. Now when I do it, I just hold it, and I go, look how I'm just holding it like this. This is why you can tell I poked my finger before. I just hold it, and I just go like this. And I just poke it, just like that. Okay, this is a little bit harder because it has the washi tape behind it, but I just hold it tight like that, and I just go like that, and it gets it right in like that. Okay, that's good washi tape. That's all I got to say. So I'm just holding it and kind of holding it shut. Okay, and so it works the same way. It's right in the middle. I don't usually, I don't do the whole cradle thing and all that. If I had one, I probably would use one. But I'm just telling you that tool I bought from We Are Memory Keepers honestly was more trouble than it was worth. It just really was. I just was like, I don't know. Okay, so then I leave these paper clipped, which I unclipped some of them, because it makes it way easier to sew in your signature. So I leave all that together. And then here, that's the top. Let me make sure I do this right. And that's the top. Okay, so then what I do is I get my, you don't need your template anymore. I get a paper clip, I get my thread, and I usually do it 3 times the length of my book. 1, 2, 3, and that's just an approximate. It doesn't have to be perfect. I tie, and to me this is super important. I can't even remember who I saw did this, and it just, oh my gosh. Tie this, and I don't tie it a double knot. I just tie this on to the bottom, and you'll see why in a minute, okay? Then I take my thread and I go like that, okay? So there we go. And so I have it 3 times the length. I have a little extra on the bottom of this paper clip. So I'm going to take my first signature, and what I'm going to do is, here's my book. I always check the orientation because I'm telling you, I have sewn in so many signatures upside down or in the wrong order. Like, let's say this needs to go in the first slot, and I'll put it here. I can't even tell you how many times I've done that. Okay, so take the middle, or take this, and what I usually do is I go in the middle and I kind of hold it at an angle just like I did, and because it always makes it easier to get it in there. And get it in your hole and just, let me get that in there. It's just for some reason that washi tape's really difficult. And then I'm going to just go through the middle hole here and come out the other end. Okay. All right. And this is why this paper clip is so cool, is that it just stops it. A lot of people will hold it with their finger, or they'll just have it hanging out. And you know, that works, but honestly, I've had it slip through so many times, and this thing works great. Just tie it to the paper clip. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the top or the bottom. I can't even tell you how many videos I watched where I just got so like, okay, do you go to the top next, or do you go to the bottom, or do you go? Some people would do the top, some would do the bottom, and I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't matter, because your book doesn't know whether it's the top or the bottom. Okay, so you just have to pick one. Pick the top or the bottom. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go through the top this time. Next time I'm going to go through the bottom just to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you've gone through and you're going to start from the outside of the book, because here's your thread. Outside of the book, and you're going to go in. I hold it at an angle, and that's the key, guys. If you put it back in that angle, it'll go through a lot easier, okay? And then go through here. Okay, so we've done that. Right? So now what we're going to do is we are going to go to the bottom, okay? We're on the inside, and the next hole, and I hold it at an angle, okay? And I'm going to take this at an angle, and it's going to fit right in there, and it's going to go to the top, okay? My other paper clip came off, and that's what's getting kind of walking around a little bit. Okay, so there we go. So now I've done that, and I've gone to all of these, okay? I've gone to the middle, the top, and the bottom. So now what I'm going to do, and this is the only really tricky part, is I'm going to go through the back, and I'm going to go through this middle hole, and this is important. And I heard this, and I never knew why until I finally figured out what it does if you do this wrong. Okay, you need to go back through this hole without splitting and going through the thread that's already in there. Because if you do go through that, what will happen is you will not be able to tighten up your signature before you tie it. That is why you don't want to do it. People will tell you not to, but a lot of times they don't tell you why. If you do that and you go through this other thread, back it back out and do it again, because you will not be able to tighten up your signature if you do that. So we go through here, okay, and here's the part that sometimes will get tricky, I'm not going to lie. So I'm going to hold it up like that, put it through here. Sometimes you'll hit it dead on and not have any problems. And right now it does not matter if your signature is loose or not, because you're going to tighten it up. So you need that kind of flexibility to get it in and out. So don't worry as you're doing it if everything's tight, because you're going to tighten it when you're done, okay? That's really important, because I used to freak out about that. Oh my God, it's so loose. I'll go back and tighten it while I'm trying to get this in and not go through the middle. Don't stress about that, because you can fix it later. So now that we've gone through, you want to make sure, if you look in here, I have not pierced that other thread. And this is when I'm going to take this paper clip off. Let me pull it through first. I'm going to take this paper clip off. Okay, it should come out real easy because it's not really tied in there. It's just one little thing. Don't show me wrong. Okay, here we go. It's not supposed to do that. It should come right out. Okay, hold on. See? Stuff on camera, that's what happens. I don't want to poke my fingers, so I'm going to bring it closer to me. It's always easier to do it closer to me, and I know it doesn't get on camera, but you know what, guys? Sometimes stuff isn't going to be on camera. Okay, so anyway, and I wasn't going to take the needle out, but that's okay. So now we have our 2 pieces that are sitting there, and you can tighten up your thread. And what I do is I take one, here it's on this end, it's going to go on that end, and then this one I'm going to go on this end, opposite ends, and I kind of crisscross them, and I just go like that. And what that does is that gives you leverage to tighten your signature in there. And see how tight? That's super tight, okay? So it gives you some leverage, and because it's wax thread, it will give you, it'll slide, okay? And then what I do is I just tie a double knot right in the middle, and what that does is it gives you some threads to hang out. You see people, you know, they're always putting charms or whatever, and I just did that on this because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, so I'm going to leave that. So now our signature is sewn in, okay? So we have one signature in there now, okay? We've done it, it's in. So now we're going to do the next one. Easy peasy, okay? And it is not that hard, guys, honestly. And if you sew it in wrong, you just take it out. You know, if it's in there and you're having trouble getting, just cut them. Take them out. Start over. It's all you got to do. Okay, it's all you got to do. Believe me, it's no big deal if you make a mistake, okay? That's why, I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch my other video where I did the no-sew binding, where you're actually, I'm not even measuring. I need to measure. It's going to be too much. I waste so much thread because I don't measure a lot of times. Approximately measure. I'm not talking get a ruler out measure, but you know, I just waste a lot because I do that. Okay, what I was going to say is on that no-sew binding where I use the tape and the washi and all that, to me that's more trouble than sewing in a signature, okay? Or sewing a signature. If this was a single signature like that one was, and with the cover, I mean, so easy, it's not even funny. I think that is so much easier than doing that, but there are some people out there that are just terrified of doing the sewing part, and I'm telling you guys, it is really easy once you get the hang of it. It only takes a few times, and the right equipment too, I will have to say. Don't skimp on your thread. If you're going to use regular like upholstery thread, which you can use, make sure you buy some beeswax or some wax, so you wax it, because the wax does make a difference, makes it easier, makes it stronger. Okay, so now we're going to do this one. This is the top. Make sure we're getting the top where the top needs to be. I can't stress how important that is because I have so many times got them in upside down. So I've got it kind of cradled a little bit. I'm going through the middle, okay? I'm going to go through my middle hole here, right? I'm going to come up through here. Okay, now that I've done that, remember what I told you last time? I don't remember. Did I stop at the top or the bottom? Okay. Doesn't matter. Either one. I think I did the top last time. I'm not sure. Now I can't remember. But I'm going to do the bottom this time just to show you it makes absolutely no difference. I can't even tell you how many times I was like, do I do the top next or the bottom? I can't remember. And guess what? It doesn't matter. Okay? It doesn't matter. I figured it out after my 5th book. I went, it doesn't matter which one you do. You just have to do the other one next. Anyway, okay. I'm sure the rest of you probably did not have that stress, but I did. Okay. So anyway, now that I've done the bottom, I'm going to go, guess what, to the top. And I'm kind of keep it folded a little bit. And I'm telling you guys, that is the key. Keep your clips on there and keep it angled in like that, and you will get through those holes. Once you separate them, then the holes will be off a tiny bit and you're poking another new hole and that kind of thing. This is the key. Make life easier on yourself, okay? And that's why I don't like to use these big clips This is a smaller one because you really can't maneuver those as well as the paper clips. I think the big paper clips work way better. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. Okay. So you're just going to go there. Okay, so now that we've gone, look, see, we've gone from the bottom to the top. We've done the middle. Then the last thing you do, you start with the middle, you end with the middle. Doesn't matter if you go top or bottom. Just pick one and then do the opposite. All you got to remember, guys, don't get confused. Then we're going to go through here. Remember, we're not going to pierce through that piece of thread, because if we do, we will not be able to tighten our thing. Okay. Keep it at an angle, and it always, if you keep it at an angle, it goes through 10 times easier. Okay. Pull it, and usually when I go like this, it just comes right off. But, okay, there we go. Now it's working. I just usually pull it off. I don't usually untie it. There we go. There we go. Okay, so then I just take, make that a little bit shorter. Okay, I take this, I tighten it. Okay, I'll go, here's my thread in the middle, and I go through one here. Okay, you don't have to do this, guys. I just do it because I just want to make sure it's really tight. And what this does, when you crisscross them and do that, and the reason you loop it around is you want these threads are then pulling your other threads. And when you go opposite, it gives you leverage to tighten this. Okay, so these are really tight. Okay, so then you do that, and then you tie it once and tie it twice, and you are going to have an extremely sturdy journal when you're done. Okay, it doesn't get any sturdier than that. Now you could do a 5-hole stitch or whatever if you wanted to. I don't think you need to, because honestly, this is a very, very sturdy journal. I mean, it's not gonna, look at that. Okay, it's not going anywhere, and look how straight it is. And if you look, your pages, when you get them that tight like that, they're not sticking out. They're, and that little extra that you did on the end there, that you gave your book. Now you don't have to do as much. You could do, a little less than that if you wanted to, but I like that. I like that, around my edges. I like having, the little extra up here and down there. Okay, so anyway, that is it, guys. We have bound our book. We are done. There's nothing else to do. It's all in there, nice and straight. Okay, all your pieces are where you want it. And now you just decorate it, okay? And, you really don't need to know much more than that, because that's it. And the only difference, if you decided, now see here, you have a gap in here. You see that gap? That's where your other third signature would go. And I actually like it that way. You put in, that would go here, and you end up with the same amount of pages, okay? But what happens is you don't have that gap, and and it's actually end up being easier. And once you've sewn in a few signatures, you will figure that out, okay? The goal is to get these two even. We did that, okay? And that's important. That's why you mark top and bottom, because even though we measured and did all that, it could be off just a tiny bit. And then what happens is then your journal's off, okay? That's why one will be up a little higher than the other. If you ever see a journal like that, that's probably what they did. So that's why you mark that, okay? And so anyway, guys, that's how you do it. Good luck to you if you're a newbie. And if you have any questions, just let me know, because I'll be glad to try and help you. I'm certainly not an expert. There are tons and tons of videos out there, But I will tell you the easiest way to start is to find a book. Just gut it, reinforce it. Don't try and build a spine and all that. That just adds more layers to it. Okay, it adds a few more layers. It's not difficult, but it adds more layers to doing it, more complexity. This is the easiest way if you're just starting out, and it's also easier if you don't over decorate when you're doing it the first time. And just do a couple of signatures. That's why I did it this way. And once you've done a few, then you can add maybe the other signature. But just try it. Just try it. It's only paper, guys, and you will be so happy with yourself when you're done, and you'll go, oh gee, it wasn't so bad. And then you'll do a few. Once you've done 3 or 4 or 5, you'll be an expert. Okay, all right, you guys have a great day or evening or whatever, and I'll see you again next time.